In the glittering high-rises of the city, where luxury cars glided like kings, and conversations often centered around money and things to be purchased with it, sat the grand mansion of Madame Eunice, one of the city's most powerful women. A business mogul and widow, she built an empire from oil and shipping. Her name opened doors. Her wealth intimidated governors. Yet, in her gold-plated living room, her greatest ambition centered not around business, but marriage. Her only son's marriage. Chuka, her son, was her pride. 35, handsome, soft-spoken, and heir to everything. Though born into affluence, Chuka had no love for flamboyance. He was an architect, an artist, who valued calm, humility, and authenticity. And authenticity he found in Amaka. Amaka was a gentle-hearted fabric seller from city. Raised by her retired carpenter father and schoolteacher mother, she learned early to value kindness over status. When Chuka met her during a charity outreach, her simplicity struck him like lightning. She offered him puff-puff, without knowing who he was. He offered to buy her drinks in return, and they sat under a small canopy, laughing about things that had nothing to do with money. They grew close. For a year, Chuka visited her secretly. They talked of dreams, prayed together, and planned a life that was modest, yet full of joy. But Madame Eunice had other ideas. "I met Chief Obi's daughter at the Rotary Gala," she said one evening, sipping from her imported wine glass. "Bright girl, studied law in London. Her father owns half the private terminals in the city." Chuka barely nodded. "She's perfect for you," she added. "I'm seeing someone already," he replied. The smile on her lips disappeared. "Who?" "Her name is Amaka. She's not from wealth, but she's gay." "Stop!" Her voice was sharp. "Don't say more. You will not disgrace this family." Chuka's eyes clouded. "Mommy, I love her." "You don't need love. You need legacy." Within weeks, and unknown to Chuka, Madame Eunice made moves. Calls were made. Lies were told. Secret personnel were deployed to discover where Amaka lived. Amaka received a sudden visit from 3 men in suits who were looking dangerous, gave her a check for 5 million naira and an envelope with pictures of her aged parents. "If you truly love your parents," one said coldly, "let him go and never go close to him again. Leave Chuka or pay the price." Amaka cried herself to sleep for nights, abandoned the check the men presented. When Chuka came as usual to see her, her shop was locked up. She had relocated without warning. Heartbroken, Chuka was confused and made inquiry around her shop area on her whereabouts without success. Chuka returned home that day, sad and devastated. He refused to eat, having lost appetite. When Madame Eunice observed his sad mood, she wanted to show concern and asked him what was wrong. Chuka dismissed the question by stating that all was well. Chuka would not reveal his worries to a hater of Amaka and decided to keep to himself. After a few weeks, Madame Eunice observed that her son was not back to himself and brazenly informed his son that if you are thinking of that poor girl, forget about her, as I have ended your relationship with her. Chuka, heavily surprised, sprang up from his sitting position and confronted his mother. "So, you were the one. Where did you drive her to? I need answers now." She stood her ground, fierce like a general. "You will marry Isioma. She fits our class. This foolishness ends now." Chuka made independent investigation and hired persons to locate Amaka, to no avail. Madame Eunice insisted that the relationship was over that she had sent her away from the city to another city. I want the best for you, and I don't want to lose you to ungrateful poor people. What happened to your father should not happen to you while trying to help people, she intoned. To embrace peace, Chuka reluctantly let the incident pass, although he never forgot Amaka. Months later, the wedding took place. It was extravagant, featured in magazines, blogs, and TV. The world celebrated it, but Chuka's heart was in mourning. Isioma, Chief Obi's daughter, was a vision of glamour, fair-skinned, with a foreign accent and diamond-studded fingernails. But where her looks charmed crowds, her soul bruised hearts. From day one, she was dismissive, controlling, and entitled. Their honeymoon outside the shores of the country ended in silence. Chuka noticed it then. She didn't laugh at jokes, unless they came with praise. She treated waiters like pests. She referred to his art as cute little hobby sketches. He began returning home late. In Madame Eunice's eyes, though, the union was perfection. Isioma was a socialite, always posting selfies with the caption, Okonkwo's Queen. Guests marveled at how fine she looked in every clothes. But no one saw Chuka's loneliness. No one noticed how often he stood by the balcony at night, staring into the clouds, wondering how a heart so full once became so hollow. Until one day, the storm finally arrived. The storm came not with thunder, but with a whisper that echoed louder than any shout. It was a Sunday afternoon in the Okonkwo mansion. Madame Eunice had invited a few elite friends and society women from around the city for tea. The garden was decorated with orchids imported from abroad. Soft classical music played in the background, and chefs prepared gourmet finger foods. She called for Isioma to help serve the guests, a tradition among the Okonkwo women. It was not servitude, it was honor, legacy, respect. Isioma descended the stairs in silk pajamas and high heels, her phone glued to her palm. Isioma, Madame Eunice said with grace, "Could you assist the girls in passing out the chin-chin trays?" Isioma froze. She blinked at her mother-in-law. Then she laughed, mocking, loud, careless. "Mummy, I didn't marry your son to become your maid." The guests gasped. Madame Eunice's eyes widened. Her lips trembled. "What did you just say to me?" "I said," Isioma replied, her tone as sharp as Pepe, "I am not your house girl. If you want help, call your staff." She turned and walked off without apology. The moment shattered the image Madame Eunice had carefully built for years. The guests sat in awkward silence. Some quietly sipped their drinks. Others pretended to admire the garden flowers. The tension was so thick, it could be sliced with a kitchen knife. Later that evening, Madame Eunice locked herself in her bedroom, tears soaking her expensive lace wrapper. She had fought to protect her family name, but now that name was being dragged through the mud by the very woman she chose to carry it. Meanwhile, Chuka said nothing. He stayed in his studio, drawing lines that led to nowhere. His heart had long left Isioma. The insults, the coldness, the vanity, it had drained every last ember of connection. That night, Chuka confronted his wife. "You disrespected my mother in public," he said softly, not with anger, but with concern. Isioma shrugged. "She disrespected me first, asking me to serve like I'm a waitress. Please, I'm not in your archaic family setting." "Isioma," he said, his voice rising slightly, "it's tradition. It's our custom. It's how Okonkwo women show unity. I'm not your mother's puppet. and I won't pretend to be." She walked out, slamming the door. The staff began whispering. The chef reported that Isioma often cursed at the kitchen staff, called them village remnants. The housemaid confessed she was afraid to clean their room because Isioma once threw a sandal at her. When Madame Eunice tried once more to sit with her daughter-in-law and explain the importance of harmony, she was met with more venom. "I'm tired of your ancient lectures," Isioma snapped. "If you want peace, mind your business. I'm not one of your factory workers." That night, Madame Eunice collapsed in her bathroom. She was rushed to the hospital for high blood pressure. Chuka stayed by her bedside, guilt eating at his insides. In that quiet hospital room, she whispered, "I forced this. I broke you. I broke everything." Chuka held her hand and said nothing. But fate was not done yet. 1 month later, during a business conference in a faraway town, Chuka saw someone he never thought he would see again. Amaka. She was now working with a charity foundation that partnered with real estate firms to provide low-income housing. Her eyes still held the calm of a woman at peace. She wore a simple Ankara dress and carried herself with grace and glamour. Chuka was surprised, and same was Amaka. They exchanged brief greetings. Her voice still sounded like music he once knew. "Amaka," he breathed, "you look whole." Looking at Amaka to see any semblance of marriage and praying against same, she smiled softly. "I had to learn how to heal in pieces. I sought for you everywhere in the city, to no avail, and was depressed when I learned my mother was behind your disappearance." That night, Chuka couldn't sleep. He kept remembering how Isioma once scorned his designs and called them playroom scribbles. He remembered how Amaka used to say, "I love how your mind builds things, even when your hands are tired." 2 weeks later, Chuka informed his mother of his decision in her room. "I want a separation." Madame Eunice said nothing at first. Then she nodded slowly. "You deserve peace, not pride. I only wish I had listened when you said love mattered." When Chuka told Isioma, she didn't even cry. "Good," she said coldly. "I never wanted to marry a mummy's boy anyway." She packed her things and moved out within 48 hours. Blogs erupted. Power couple collapses. Isioma Okonkwo and Chuka split. Trouble in billionaire paradise. Marriage of money. Divorce of peace. But Chuka didn't care. He had spent years simulating happiness. Now he wanted to truly live it. The Okonkwo mansion grew quieter after Isioma left. For the first time in over a year, the halls were no longer filled with quarrels and slamming doors. The chef hummed again while cooking. The housemaids resumed smiling. And even the parrot in the cage outside the patio seemed to squawk more cheerfully. But within Madame Eunice's heart, regret burned. She had spent her whole life building her empire, believing that wealth and alliances were the ultimate inheritance. Now, all that glitter felt like gravel in her mouth. Her son had aged before her eyes, his laughter replaced by silence, his brightness dulled like metal left in the rain. One evening, she sat on her balcony, watching the sun retreat behind the clouds. Her elder brother, Uncle Cosmas, joined her, sipping bitter leaf tea beside her. "She called me a slave master," Madame Eunice whispered, still broken. "Said I was dragging her into archaic village womanhood." Uncle Cosmas chuckled dryly. "You raised your son to find gold, Eunice. But he just wanted a clean stream to drink from." A long silence followed. "I ruined it," she said. No, he replied. You just forgot that peace is more valuable than prestige. The next week, Madame Eunice did something city society never expected. She called Amaka. It took days for her to muster the courage. Her hand trembled as she dialed the number Chuka had secretly shared. The phone rang twice. Then a calm voice answered. Hello? Eunice paused. Amaka, this is Madame Eunice. A breath on the other end, then silence. I'm not calling to fight or blame, Eunice continued. I'm calling because I'm sorry. No words came from Amaka, just soft breathing. I was wrong about everything, about you, about what matters. Her voice cracked. Can we meet? The meeting took place in a quiet cafe in the city center, a neutral ground. Eunice came with no bodyguards, no lace wrapper, no designer perfume. She wore a simple blouse and wrapper, her hair tied in a plain scarf. Amaka came as she always was, humble, poised. For a long time, they just stared at each other. Then Eunice said, I thought you weren't good enough for him. But the truth is, you were the piece I robbed from him. And from myself. The check the men I sent to you gave you. You also did not cash it. It shows you came for love and not for money. Amaka didn't gloat or gash. She simply said, love is not something money can arrange, Ma. It grows where it is watered, not where it is forced. That moment broke something in Madame Eunice. And in the breaking, healing began. 6 months later, after a quiet legal process, Chuka and Isioma's divorce was finalized. Isioma did not contest. She had already started flaunting a new political lover on the media space. Chuka, meanwhile, did something shocking for a man of his class. He proposed to Amaka again. No rings made of platinum, no paparazzi. Just a handwritten letter tucked into a folded Ankara fabric, delivered with a rose and a note that read, I found peace in you. If you will have me again, I promise to protect it this time. Amaka accepted, with one condition. This time, we tell our story, not the one others try to write for us. Their wedding was intimate, held in a modest church, attended by true friends and family. Madame Eunice wore a simple sky blue lace, no heavy makeup, no gold necklace. She walked into the church quietly and sat, humbly, waiting to be invited up. When Amaka saw her, she smiled and reached out her hand. It was Madame Eunice who wept. Months passed. Peace blossomed. Chuka returned to his architecture studio, where his hands once again found rhythm. His art shifted, no longer cages and broken windows, but homes surrounded by trees and portraits of women with calm eyes. Amaka launched a foundation that trained low-income women in fashion and fabric design. The same woman Madame Eunice once dismissed as a roadside trader was now mentoring over 200 women across the city. And Madame Eunice, she changed too. She stopped attending elite wine brunches, where gossip rotted dignity. She started organizing mother and son prayer circles. She even sold her extra mansion in the city and invested in a women's tech scholarship program Amaka introduced. At a family dinner one night, Eunice stood to give a toast. Her voice shook. I thought I was building an empire, she said, but I was building a cage. I thought I needed status, but I needed serenity. This, she gestured around the table to Chuka, Amaka, and even Amaka's aging parents. This is wealth. Everyone clapped, not out of politeness, but gratitude. The parrot chirped again from its cage, and for once, it wasn't repeating curses. This story is from African Folktales by Momonelli. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to hit that subscribe button, like and leave a comment, as we have got some more videos on the way, which we think you are really going to enjoy. Thanks for watching. See you in our next video.